involving immigration. Now, tensions between the United States and Venezuela are escalating. President Trump says he spoke with President Nicolas Maduro, while U.S. lawmakers demand answers on alleged follow-up strikes in the Caribbean. Here's more.
President Trump confirmed yesterday he had a phone call with Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro as Washington intensifies military and diplomatic pressure on Caracas.
The New York Times reported that you had a phone call with Maduro. Did you?
I don't want to comment on it. The answer is yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about
I can't do that.
Mr. President, would you say it went well?
I wouldn't say it went well or badly. It was a phone call.
The news comes as the Trump administration closes Venezuelan airspace, warning airlines and pilots and drug dealers and human traffickers to avoid the region.
Mr. President, on Venezuela, can you tell us more about why the airspace above Venezuela should be considered closed?
Because we consider Venezuela to be not a very friendly country. They sent millions of people, really, and probably a number in excess of that. And a lot of those people shouldn't be in our country, from jails, from gangs, from drug dealers.
The Federal Aviation Administration earlier this month warned airlines of heightened military activity in the region, sparking several canceled flights to Venezuela.
Does your warning mean that an airstrike is imminent, or should we not read it that way?
Don't read anything into it.
Tensions have surged following more than 20 U.S. strikes on alleged drug smuggling boats since September. The administration says these operations have killed more than 80 people designated as narco-terrorists. But lawmakers from both parties are now demanding answers after reports that U.S. forces carried out a follow-up strike on survivors of an attack in September. War Secretary Pete Hegseth has denied ordering any follow-up strikes, calling reports fabricated and inflammatory.
I don't know anything about it. He said he did not say that, and I believe him 100%.
You don't know if there was
You're talking about the two men?
The second strike to kill the
Yeah.
two men.
No, he said he didn't do it. He said he never said it.
Venezuela is now accusing the U.S. of murder, acknowledging for the first time that some of the dead were Venezuelan nationals. In Caracas yesterday, Maduro re-emerged in public for the first time in days. He appeared at an annual specialty coffee awards event and avoided any direct mention of the crisis. The unusually highly public president has not been seen for days, leading to speculation about his whereabouts.
President Trump announcing the airspace around Venezuela should be considered closed. Joining us to discuss is Jonathan Houlihan. He's a commander in the U.S. Navy's Judge Advocate General's Corps Reserves. He's a veteran of both the Iraq and Afghanistan combat theaters and a designated expert in international national security and operational law. So, Jonathan, always great to have you join us. I just have to ask you this. Does the United States have the legal authority to declare another sovereign nation's airspace closed?
Well, I think it's, first of all, anything I say on the program doesn't reflect the DoD or it's in my personal capacity, so based on my previous experience. But yeah, to declare that airspace closed, it's really more of a deconfliction matter, and there's increased operations, obviously, in the airspace. There may be more intelligence gathering activities, more military planes. So it's really a deconflicting of the airspace. So it's normal whenever countries are deconflicting airspace for increased operations.
And you know, Jonathan, FBI Director Kash Patel also talked about this topic. I actually have a clip from an interview that we did, our sister media did, the Epoch Times. Can you take a look at this?
The drug trafficking organizations, say down in Mexico and Colombia and Venezuela and elsewhere, are doing, the guys that are making the fentanyl. We know where they are, we know who they are, we know how they do it.
So it seems like the U.S. knows a lot about the drug operations in Venezuela. Can you just talk about, in your perspective, how do you see potential strikes playing out?
Well, I think they've laid the roadmap publicly, right? You have the FTO designation, Foreign Terrorist Organization designation, through the State Department. So that allows you to not only sanction and for financial issues and sanction individuals, but also to conduct military strikes on those designated narco-terrorists. So for that specific designation, it's going to be more based on status-based on those individuals, based on the intelligence they have that link those individuals to that FTO designation and the narco-terrorism activities.
And of course, Trump said there could be land action in Venezuela, right? What is the legal criteria for conducting military operations inside another sovereign country?
Well, certainly there's going to be, that would be more in the classified space. You're going to have the president dealing with, probably would be other agencies that would deal with that. There'd be a presidential finding, whatnot. And that would be very, operations that wouldn't be so public. So in that context, if there were ground operations, it'd be very surgical. It would be very succinct. But I would assume a lot of it would be, targets with airstrikes, with maybe a very small contingent force. Again, I don't know if that's actually going to occur. If that would occur, I don't have any intelligence to suggest that. It could be just posturing as well to let them know, the Venezuelans know, hey, we're serious about this cartel threat, this FTO threat, the narco terrorists that reside in your country, that are conducting operations that are affecting the American public, and it's coming across our border. Fentanyl, as you said, I mean, it's killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. It's a very deadly synthetic opioid that has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans in an open border. So they've closed the border. Now there's the maritime threat. They're addressing that maritime threat. And if they're not able to address the maritime threat, they're going to seek to strike targets, their infrastructure, their command and control nodes within Venezuela.
I mean, Jonathan, are we in uncharted territory here? Has there been a precedent for U.S. actions such as this, whether we're talking about, drug boat strikes, military buildup, or potential land action?
Well, I mean, if you look at the Obama years, you had strikes all over. You had them all over the Middle East, drone strikes that were in sovereign nations based on status-based targets, whether they're Al-Qaeda or other ISIS-affiliated terrorist organizations. Yeah, there's certainly precedent for this. They called them the drone wars back in the day. It was when the strikes started getting approved in third countries. It was outside of the traditional battle space. And look, let's look at this realistically. This is not traditional warfare. This is not armed conflict with uniformed nations. This is non-international armed conflict with belligerents that have taken up arms or otherwise conducted military activity, narco-terrorist activity against the United States. So there is a precedent for this. It's just not what your listeners need to understand is that the same lines of effort that go with the terrorist activities are also with the drug trade, the narco-terrorist activities, human smuggling, human trafficking. All of these lines of effort are similar. So just because it's not an Al-Qaeda affiliated group taking up arms against the United States doesn't mean it's not a clear and present danger or threat to the United States, our population, our citizens, or our property. So President Trump has a duty and responsibility as Commander-in-Chief under Article 2 to conduct military operations to protect the American people. Now, I understand Congress has a role. Congress is going to do what Congress does. They're going to provide oversight. But at the end of the day, the president has to strike when American lives are at risk. So it's the burden of command, the burden of being the president, the burden of being Commander-in-Chief is to take these things serious and strike and make sure American lives are protected. So yes, there's precedent in the Middle East, and now there's precedent in the Caribbean. And if they take that step further and strike within designated FTO targets within Venezuela, I'm sure there's going to be demarche actions. There's going to be all sorts of diplomatic issues that go up to the UN. But at the end of the day, the United States has inherent right of self-defense, and that includes persons, property, and our citizens.
Okay, Jonathan, I just have one more thing I'm wondering here. And you brought up Al-Qaeda, which is a terrorist organization. And the Trump administration last week formally designated Maduro and his allies of his government as members of a foreign terrorist organization. So I'm wondering, what tools does this open up? Could this move give the U.S. expanded military options for striking inside Venezuela, for example?
Well, it opens up several tools. Like I said, a lot of the tools are designed for sanctions, to sanction that activity. We've done that in Russia. We've done it across the Middle East. We've done it in Iran. We've sanctioned banks. We've sanctioned financial institutions that have done business. You've heard about these snapback sanctions. where anybody that does third-party sanctions, anybody that does business with them. So it could open up a whole toolkit of financial incentives for those that do business in Venezuela not to do business in Venezuela. It also makes them targetable. It makes them status-based targets if the president or the chain of command authorizes those strikes. So it opens up that toolkit. It also opens up something that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, but if they're designated as FTOs and you're smuggling drugs, now you can be prosecuted under the material support statute. If you're providing support to these networks, you can now be prosecuted under 18 USC section 223B, I think it is, the Bravo section. So it opens up also a way to prosecute people. So it opens up multiple tools through diplomacy, financial means, through sanctions, through the Department of Treasury, through the military, and also through the Department of Justice. So it really is a whole of government approach to stop this narco-terrorist activity.
Well, all right. Great insight, Jonathan, today. Always great to speak with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate it.
The National Guardsman who survived last week's shooting is showing